In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Look, listen, be aware, keep alert, keep awake. These are all the calls to the Advent season. But they seem to have a much deeper resonance this year. Listen, look, be aware, keep alert, keep awake. These are also the inner voices of anxiety. And who hasn't felt anxiety during 2020? Do you remember the first time that you went to the supermarket after knowing that COVID-19 was around? Do you remember how you sort of just avoided everybody around you and was afraid to touch the supermarket trolley? Do you remember the first visit to the doctor, sitting there in the waiting room and everyone around you coughing? Do you remember your first ride on public transport, in a bus or a train? Or perhaps even your first time back at church? Do you remember how it felt when the numbers started to rise up in Italy? I'd booked to go on retreat just north of Rome. As the pandemic spread across Italy, I got anxious about going, and then I got anxious about not going. And do you remember how it felt as the bodies started to pile up around the world? Do you remember how it felt in those first few days after the Ruby Princess docked in Sydney Harbour? All of those feelings are anxiety-type feelings. Look, listen, beware, be awake, be alert. Jesus says, from the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branches become tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. And so we human beings have an innate ability to read the signs that are around us. But Jesus goes on to say, but about that day or about that hour no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Beware, keep alert, for you do not know at what time he will come. So, we don't always know how to fully interpret the signs. We see the signs around us, but it is interpretation that is so important. So to help us in interpretation, we put our trust in those that we hope have the gifts of interpretation. In the case of the pandemic, we put our trust, hopefully, in the epidemiologists and the medical experts. But then we see frightened politicians either not listening to the experts or putting some kind of political spin on the advice that they're getting. And that makes us feel even more anxious. Who do we believe? Who do we trust? Look, listen, beware, stay awake, stay alert. And then we see the pollies who seek to do the right thing then being vilified and accused of becoming dictators and all sorts of terrible things. Again, more anxiety, more insecurity. Look, listen, beware. And then in that state of anxiety and insecurity, we become deeply vulnerable to every crackpot conspiracy theorist who wants to peddle just a little bit of fake understanding and a little bit of false security, and we get on the internet and on Twitter and see all these crazy things being said about all sorts of things. Then we're told that we've got to have a QR code on our phone, and we can't even come to church without QR coding, and we think, who's getting all this information? That's an anxiety response. That's an insecure response. And into that space you get all these people trying to sort of gain a little bit of power in the midst of insecurity and anxiety, and you get these mobs like QAnon and all these conspiracy theorists. They flourish in this space. And we have people coming up with really, really way out, weird, crazy ideas. Be awake, be alert, be aware, listen. I want to take us back to Aquinas' dictum that we've been mentioning over and over again for the last few weeks, because I think, again, it applies in this space. Aquinas kept saying, whatever is received according to the manner of the receiver. Whatever is received according to the manner of the receiver. You see, if we are anxious, if our manner of reception is anxiety and insecurity and fear and worry, the words, listen, look, beware, keep awake, keep alert, will be received in that manner. They'll be received into anxiety, and they will fan that anxiety. They'll make us feel even more anxious. If you're feeling a little bit anxious and someone says, look out, your anxiety will peak, it'll go up. But if we are in a different mode or a different manner, as Aquinas would have said, if we are in a more spiritual mode or manner, if we are in a more prayerful, connected to the eternal, in deep relationship with God, with Jesus, with the Spirit, then we may begin to hear those words in a different way. Whatever is received according to the manner of the receiver. If we are anxious, those words will just make us more anxious. But if we are deeply prayerful, deeply trusting in a God who loves us beyond measure and who wants nothing more for us than to bask and rejoice and live in that love, then we will hear these words not as a call to anxiety, but as a call to discernment, to a deeper understanding, to wisdom. And instead of hearing, listen, look, beware, keep alert, keep awake, we'll hear, listen, look, be aware, keep alert, be awake. Whatever is received according to the manner of the receiver. And discernment and understanding is really what we need in times of anxiety and stress and insecurity. We don't need more anxiety, stress and insecurity. We need to understand and to have wisdom. So what are some of the tools we need for discernment, that we need for understanding? Well, the Bible calls these tools, if you like, the gifts, or the fruits, rather, of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And so it all starts with love. Now, you may well say, well, sometimes love makes us make really silly decisions, and that's certainly true. But that's not the kind of love that this is talking about. This kind of love is the love that desires the best for the other. And that's a great place to start in a time of anxiety and insecurity. It's a great place to start with discernment in a space that desires only the best, only the good for the other. And if we are in a state of joy. Love and joy are the places we need to start. If we are in a place of joy, we are less needy. We are less likely to fall prey to those who want to manipulate our neediness. If we are anxious and afraid, we are very needy. And someone will come along and say, I can fix that for you. We see politicians do that all the time, don't we? Look, the world's a scary place. I'll keep you safe. If we are deeply loving and joyful people, then that manipulation doesn't work so well. We are less needy. But if we are in a state of despair and rather than a state of joy, if we are in a state of despair and anxiety and fear, then we're vulnerable to anyone who wants to peddle some kind of fake security or false security. So love and joy are so important in a time of anxiety. Again, if we are in a place of inner peace, of shalom, as the Hebrews would say, we avail ourselves of a space of discerning, of understanding, of wisdom. We give ourselves space, and space is so important. When we're feeling anxious, we're often inclined to sort of try and push people away because I just need a bit of space, we'll say. And that's true. That's exactly what we need. We just need a little bit of space to breathe and to seek some understanding and some wisdom. And then patience. Patience is one of the most important tools of discernment, because discernment needs time. We're seeking to rush to a vaccine at the moment because we're all worried. We want this vaccine and we want to be, to be okay in the pandemic. And the experts are saying, we've got to take this steady. We don't want to make a mistake. We have to be patient because that is one of the most important things for discernment. I remember many years ago now, long before I met Kerry, I was in Paris in the springtime. What happens when you're in Paris in the springtime? You think you're in love. And I came back to my spiritual director and he said, well, that's wonderful. Let's take a year to discern whether this is right for you. And I thought, don't be crazy. I'm in love. I don't want to take a year. That's forever. That's a lifetime. Of course, he was right. We need time. We need space. We need patience. Because this is a call to discernment. It's the same then with the states of kindness and goodness. We don't have time to go through them all in detail. Faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are the tools we need in a time of anxiety. We need to be discerning. So what is discernment? What is understanding? What is wisdom? It is really engaging reality. It is embracing truth. Father Don reminded us a couple of weeks ago about the Greek word apocalypse. It means revealing or unveiling. And the New Testament Greek word that we translate as truth means something very similar. It means not hidden. And today's gospel reading is apocalyptic in nature. You can't. The sky is darkened, and the stars are falling from heaven, and angels don't. And whenever you get angels mentioned in the Scripture, you're normally in the realms of apocalyptic literature. And we're reminded that this word that gets often bad press, it means unveiling. to see what is real. And today's gospel is apocalyptic in nature, but we now understand that apocalyptic literature isn't a call to be anxious, although it's full of all sorts of weird and wonderful imagery. It's not a call to anxiety or to fear, it's a call to understanding and discernment and wisdom. Now, it could be said that 2020 has been an apocalyptic year. No doubt about it. It's apocalyptic. In January, as the gospel suggests today, the sun was darkened. It was darkened by the bushfire. And the moon did not give its light at night. And in those firestorms, it was as if the stars were falling from heaven. And then by March, we had the pandemic that has changed our lives in ways that we could never have possibly imagined, probably changed our lives forever. It's changed the way we worship. My goodness, it takes Anglicans at least 100 years to change anything, and we changed everything in a matter of 3 or 4 days. It'll never be the same again. Even when we get back to whatever normal is, it'll be different. Are these the signs to be discerned and to be interpreted? Yes, they are. What do they mean? Well, we need to apply love and joy, and patience and self-control and kindness and faithfulness and all of those things to that discerning process. And there's a lot more discerning to be done. But at the very least, it seems that these signs mean that we need to change some of the ways that we live, some of the ways that we see each other, some of the ways that we understand our economic life together, and most definitely some of the ways that we interact with the natural world around us. If we don't change some of those things, we will not survive. And I know that sounds a bit apocalyptic, doesn't it? But it's not a call to fear or to anxiety. It's a call to understanding and wisdom and discernment. But we will never be able to respond productively to such existential threats unless our hearts and our minds are in the right place, unless we are deeply connected to the one that is everything, unless we are deeply connected to one another, unless we desire nothing but the good of the other, unless we are in a place of love and of joy and of peace and of patience and of kindness, of goodness, of faithfulness, gentleness and self-control. Apocalypse is not a call to fear, to anxiety. Beware, stay alert, be awake. But it's a call to understanding and discernment and wisdom. Listen, look, be aware, be alert. The Lord be with you.